It was a ruse of the gods. Cunningly the enchantress was fashioned. For no sooner had she bewitched man than she changed and caught him in all the circumstantialities of existence. It was that the gods had desired. But what, pray, can be more delicious, or more entrancing and bewitching, than that which the gods themselves contrived, while battling for their supremacy, as the only means of luring man? And most assuredly it is so, for woman is the only and the most seductive power in heaven and on earth. When compared with her in this sense, man will indeed be found to be exceedingly imperfect. And the stratagem of the gods was crowned with success, but not always. There have existed at all times some men, a few, who have detected the deception. They perceive well enough woman's loveliness, more keenly indeed than the others, but they also suspect the real state of affairs. I call them erotic natures, and count myself among them. Men call them seducers. Woman has no name for them. Such persons are to her unnameable. These erotic natures are the truly fortunate ones. They live more luxuriously than do the very gods, for they regale themselves with food more delectable than ambrosia, and they drink what is more delicious than nectar. They eat the most seductive invention of the gods' most ingenious sort. They are ever eating dainties set for a bait. Incomparable delight! Blissful fare! They are ever eating but the dainties set for a bait, and they are never caught. All other men greedily seize and devour it, like bumpkins eating their cabbage, and are caught. Only the erotic nature fully appreciates the dainties are set out for bait. He prizes them infinitely. Woman divines this, and for that reason there is a secret understanding between him and her, but he knows also that she is a bait, and that secret he keeps to himself. That nothing more marvellous, nothing more delicious, nothing more seductive than woman can be devised, for that vouch the gods in their pressing need, which heighten their powers of invention, for that vouches also the fact that they risked all, and shaping her moved heaven and earth. I now forsake the myth. The conception man corresponds to his idea. I can therefore, if necessary, think of an individual man as existing. The idea of woman, on the other hand, is so general that no single woman is able to express it completely. She is not contemporaneous with man, and hence of less noble origin, but a later creation, though more perfect than he. Whether now the gods took some part from him whilst he slept, from fear of waking him by taking too much, or whether they bisected him and made woman out of the one half, at any rate it was man who was partitioned. Hence she is the equal of man only after this partition. She is a delusion and a snare. but is so only afterwards. And for him who is deluded, she is finiteness incarnate. But in her first stage, she is finiteness raised to the highest degree in the deceptive infinitude of all divine and human illusions. Now the deception does not exist. One instant longer, and one is deceived. She is finiteness, and as much she is a collective. One woman represents all women. Only the erotic nature comprehends this, and therefore knows how to love many without ever being deceived, sipping the while all the delights of the cunning gods were able to prepare. For this reason, as I said, woman cannot be fully expressed by one formula, but is rather an infinitude of finalities. He who wishes to think her idea will have the same experience as he who gazes on a sea of nebulous shapes, whichever foam anew, or as he who is dazed by looking over the waves, whose foamy crests ever mock one's vision. For her idea is but the workshop of possibilities, and to the erotic nature these possibilities are the everlasting reason for his workshop and for his worship. So the gods created her delicate and ethereal, as if out of the mists of the summer night, yet goodly like a ripe fruit, light like a bird, through the repository of what attracts all the world, light, because the play of the forces is harmoniously balanced in the invisible center of a negative relation, slender and gross, with definite lines, yet her body sinuous, with beautiful curves, perfect, yet ever appearing as if completed, but now cool, delicious, and refreshing, like new fallen snow, and yet blushing in coy transparency, happy like some pleasantry which makes one forget all one's sorrows, soothing as being the end of desire, and satisfying in herself being the stimulus of desire. And the gods had calculated that man, when first beholding her, would be amazed, as one who sees himself, though familiar with the sight, would stand in amaze, as one who sees himself in the splendor of perfection, would stand in amaze, as one who beholds what he did never dream he would, yet beholds what it would seem ought to have occurred to him before, sees what is essential to life, and yet gazes on it as being the very mystery of existence. It is precisely this contradiction in his admiration which nurses desire to life, while this same admiration urges him ever nearer, so that he cannot desist from gazing, cannot desist from believing himself familiar with the sight, without really daring to approach, even though he cannot desist from desiring. When the gods had thus planned her form, they were seized with fear, lest they might not have the wherewithal to give it existence. But what they feared even more was herself, for they dared not let her know how beautiful she was, apprehensive of having someone in the secret who might spoil their ruse. Then was the crowning touch given to their wondrous creation. They made her faultless, but they concealed all this from her in the nescience of her innocence, and concealed it doubly from her in the impenetrable mystery of her modesty. Now she was perfect, and victory certain. Inviting she had been before, but now doubly so through her shyness, and beseeching through her shrinking, and irresistible through herself offering resistance. The gods were jubilant, and no allurement has ever been devised in the world so great as is woman, and no allurement is so compelling as is innocence, and no temptation is as ensnaring as is modesty, and no deception is as matchless as is woman. She knows of nothing, still her modesty is instinctive divination. She is distinct from man, and the separating wall of modesty parting them is more decisive than Aladdin's sword separating him from Gunnar. And yet, when like Pyramus he puts his head to this dividing wall of modesty, the erotic nature will perceive all pleasures of desire divine within as from afar. Thus does woman tempt. Men are wont to set forth the most precious things they possess as a delectation for the gods. Nothing less will do. Thus is woman a showbread. The gods knew of naught comparable to her. She exists, she is present, she is with us, close by, and yet she is removed from us to an infinite distance, when concealed in her modesty, until she herself betrays her hiding place. She knows not how. It is not she herself, it is life which informs on her. Roguish, she is like a child who in playing peeps forth from his hiding place. Yet her roguishness is inexplicable, for she does not know of it herself. She is ever mysterious, mysterious when she casts her eyes down, mysterious when she sends forth the messengers of her glance, which no thought, let alone any word, is able to follow. And yet is the eye the interpreter of the soul. What then is the explanation of this mystery, if the interpreter too is unintelligible? Calm she is, like the hushed stillness of invented, when not a leaf stirs, calm like a consciousness as yet unaware of aught. Her heartbeats are as irregular as if life were not present, and yet the erotic nature, listening with his stethoscopically practiced ear, detects the dithyrambic pulsing of desired sounding, along unbeknown. Careless she is, like the blowing of the wind, content like the profound ocean, and yet full of longing, like a thing biding its explanation. My friends, my mind is softened, indescribably softened. I comprehend that also my life expresses an idea, even if you do not comprehend me. I too have discovered the secret of existence. I too deserve a divine idea, and assuredly I do not serve it for nothing. If woman is a ruse of the gods, this means that she is to be seduced, and if woman is not an idea, the true inference is that the erotic nature wishes to love as many of them as possible. What luxury it is to relish the ruse without being duped! Only the erotic nature comprehends. And how blissful it is to be seduced, woman alone knows. I know that from woman, even though I never yet allowed any one of them time to explain it to me, but reasserted my independence, serving the idea by a break as sudden as that caused by death. For a bride and a break are to one another like female and male. Only woman is aware of this, and she is aware of this together with her seducer. No married man will ever grasp this, nor does she speak with him about it. She resigns herself to her fate. She knows that it must be so, and that she can be seduced only once. For this reason, she never really bears malice against the man who seduced her. That is to say, if he really did seduce her and thus expressed the idea. Broken marriage vows and that kind of thing is of course nonsense and no seduction. Indeed, it is by no means so great a misfortune for a woman to be seduced. In fact, it is a piece of good fortune for her. An excellently seduced girl may make an excellent wife. If I myself were not fit to be a seducer, however deeply I feel my inferior qualifications in this respect, if I chose to be a married man, I would always choose a girl already seduced, so that I would not have to begin my marriage by seducing my wife. Marriage, to be sure, also expresses an idea, but in relation to the idea of marriage, the quality is altogether immaterial, which is the absolutely essential condition for my idea. Therefore, a marriage ought never to be planned to begin as though it were the beginning of a story of seduction. So much is sure, there is a seducer for every woman. Happy is she whose good fortune is to meet just him. Through marriage, on the other hand, the gods win their victory. In it, the once seduced maiden walks through life by the side of her husband, looking back at times, full of longing, resigned to her fate, until she reaches the goal of life. She dies, but not in the same sense as man dies. She is volatilized and resolved into the mysterious primal element of which the gods formed her. She disappears like a dream, like an impermanent shape whose hour is past. For what is woman but a dream, and the highest reality was all. Thus does the erotic nature comprehend her, leading her, and being led by her, in the moment of seduction, beyond time, where she has her true existence, being an illusion. Through her husband, on the other hand, she becomes a creature of this world, and he through her. Marvellous nature! If I did not admire thee, a woman would teach me, for truly she is venerable of life. Splendidly didst thou fashion her, but more splendidly still, in that thou never didst fashion one woman like another. In man, the essential is the essential, and insofar always alike. But in woman, the inventiveness is the essential, and is thus an inexhaustible source of differences. Brief is her splendor, but quickly the pain is forgotten too, when the same splendor is professed me anew. It is true, I too am aware of the unbeautiful which may appear in her thereafter, but she is not thus with her seducer.